Hey, welcome back into the driver's seat with me, Greg Murphy. Now, each episode we buckle up with interesting New Zealanders to explore their stories, some life lessons and a few unexpected turns along the way. But before we hit the road, a big shout out to our sponsor AutoSense, who are helping make our roads safer with expert fleet and driver safety solutions. So find out more at autosense.co.nz. Now, she's been called a national treasure. She's a straight shooter and one of our greatest ever sports people, Dame Susan Devoy. Dame Susan was world's #1 ranked squash player for 8 straight years and won 4 world titles along the way, and that's just part of her incredible journey. After retiring young, she stepped off the court and into public service, taking one of the country's most high-profile and challenging roles as New Zealand's Race Relations Commissioner. Dame Suzy D has never been afraid to speak her mind and stand up for what she believes in.
You know, losing control around a corner scares the living daylights out of me.
Wow. There you go.
John wasn't
Little
worried
life
about
lesson.
me. He was just worried that his Ford Falcon got written off.
Hey, listen, they made plenty of them, and really at the end of the day, it's a Ford. So
Yeah.
on this episode, we get to go beyond the headlines and the honours to find out what really drives her and what she drives as Susan Devoy gets into the driver's seat. All right, let's go for a drive. Oh, thanks very much.
Something new, something different.
It certainly is. It certainly is, but thanks for your time.
Ironic, we're right by the police station.
Well, it's only going to be ironic if something goes wrong. Are you expecting something to go wrong? Have you had a
I'm a very good driver.
I love people that say that.
Well, I think I'm a very good driver.
There you go. Have you had experiences with the boys in blue in your driving experience?
Oh, recently I got pulled over.
Well, you did.
Yeah, I was passing in a passing lane, of course.
But you did
And
the
I
whole
had-
just sped up a little bit.
I had to pass, yes, I had to go back quickly to get past the guy towing his boat who was going too fast.
Right.
And as I pulled in, I saw the police car, Skoda, on the side, so I just immediately, I didn't even wait for him to chase me.
You just pulled straight in.
And do you know what was really funny is I had some Americans, and he's a former Boston homicide detective. My daughter-in-law's parents out from Boston.
Yeah.
And he went from the back seat and said, here, and gave me his, when they retire, they get a badge. He said, show him that. I said, Jimmy, that doesn't work in New Zealand. That's called corruption. Anyway, he was very kind.
Right. Did he give you the whole, oh, hello?
He must have, no, because it was registered under my husband's name.
Oh, okay.
But he said, who's John? And I said, that's John. He was sitting there.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, you were going a bit fast. I said, oh, I had to get past that guy. And anyway, he was very kind. He let me off. He said, just tone it down, will you? Tone it down.
Well, that's honourable.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, he probably
could see the situation.
I don't know whether he had clocked me, you know?
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, anyway, I was lucky and I drove very
Sedately.
responsibly after that.
So you haven't had too many run-ins then with the law?
No, not majorly.
That's good. Right, tell us about the Jag. You got the Jag,
Yeah.
right?
The Jag's actually was my husband's car.
Right.
I don't usually spend a lot of money on cars because I trash them a little bit.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So
They're just a thing. tool.
They are.
Yeah.
They're just a means of getting around. And I wouldn't spend a shitload of money on one, that's for sure.
Fair enough.
But anyway, I do a bit of travelling now, and he says he's concerned for my safety, so he wants me to drive this. But normally,
Do you think he's actually, did you check that he hasn't upped up insurance or anything like that on your life or anything like that?
well, funny, he gets the new car, and I need to get the old ones.
Ah.
Something wrong with that.
Who taught you to drive? Did you teach yourself?
Yeah, I was sort of self-taught because I spent most of my life overseas from very young.
Yeah, right.
I got my licence in an automatic, God knows how. And the first time I drove, when I came back from a season overseas, and I hadn't driven much, my brother asked me to go something in a manual Mini, little tiny one. And I
A
didn't,
Ridgy Didge one.
I didn't know how to drive a manual. And so I hopped and bopped and sort of self-taught myself.
Is that right?
I think everyone should learn to drive with a manual.
Well, I agree. Although
Virtually impossible
we're
now.
past that now. Yeah, unfortunately. Because it taught you much better skills because you actually, you didn't have free hand. You know, you didn't have free hands. You always were, certainly if you're driving around somewhere slow, you're always moving a gear lever. You've got 3 pedals. It takes a little bit more concentration. And now we've got it all so easy with our automatics. And therefore the distraction comes in pretty easily, doesn't it?
Yeah.
People.
Well, I've heard for young people, God, I don't imagine. I mean, even driving up today, I saw every second person on their phone.
Fighters, it's pretty bad.
I like driving. I like...
you do?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I like putting my music on, and that's why I really liked when I had a manual Mini.
Yeah.
Because I really like driving, you see.
Oh, wow.
You're stuck on the motorway, I like to be able to do something.
So where do you think that comes from, that you actually don't mind it? You don't have a thing for cars effectively, but you actually quite like driving?
Yeah, I just like driving. I like time. I mean, I think it stems from when, with 4 kids and busy lives, and they were little.
Yeah.
And it was like a real treat to have some time on your own driving in a car. Listening to whatever you wanted to listen to without kids screaming and yelling in the back. And I like driving. I'd rather get in a car and drive than hop in an aeroplane and fly.
Yeah, sure. So where do you live?
I live in Mount Maunganui.
Right. And you're quite happy just getting in and driving to Wellington?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's not really, I mean, a lot of people have to drive for work, and they reps or whatever on the road, but most times if you're living in...
Yeah. I mean, probably the reason I say that is because I'm slightly older now, and I've got time. I'm not time poor anymore. So, it takes a day to go somewhere, and then it's fine.
Yeah.
And often when you go somewhere, if you fly, you don't have a car, do you? So...
Well, that's the thing. You've got to get a rental or I hate taxis and all that kind of stuff. I'm a big rental person. If I'm going somewhere, I'll rent because I want to be in control, I think. Is that it? You'd be
I like being
freak,
control.
yeah?
I am definitely a control freak. I hate being a passenger.
Yeah.
So whenever John and I go anywhere, I always drive.
Really?
Shit myself if I sit in a passenger with just about anyone. I'm one of those people with my foot, like one of them. It's all right for me to go as fast as I like.
That's right.
But nobody else.
You're quite confident about your ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Regardless if someone else isn't. It doesn't matter. You are. That's the main thing. Yeah.
And, I drive with John and he chats away and he slows down and I have to tell him we're coming to a passing lane, he can pass now. By the time he gets to the car, the car's passing lane's finished. And I suppose it's because he's very safe. But
I'm probably not really surprised that it sounds like our personalities are quite similar.
That's because we're high achievers, you see.
Is that what it is?
It's that competitive
desire.
Comes out.
Yeah. And it doesn't really matter what it is either, eh?
No, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't like being told what to do.
No, not really.
Especially now.
You rate yourself pretty good. Then do you rate yourself all right as a driver?
As a driver, I can probably go a little too fast too often. I don't go fast around town, but I am on the open road. Like to
get along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not ridiculously so, but. And, when you've got a little Mini, they can't go overly fast, but you've got something like this that's got a bit of grunt, you can go like the clappers if you want to. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, a lot of people will just sit in a queue and just sit there and be more than happy no matter what happens. And that is not, I just can't deal with that at all in any way, shape or form. I don't want to be part of someone else's.
I don't think New Zealanders are very good drivers.
No.
I don't think they're very polite drivers. I will let someone in. I'm not the person that, goes faster to not let them in.
Surprisingly, I do that too. I'm quite happy to let people in.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem
But I think it should be a reciprocal arrangement, whereas,
it's
people...
not.
And that's why when you go overseas, not all the time, but generally, you find people are so much more courteous.
They are,
in some
right?
countries.
Yeah.
I think in America they are. And in Europe. But New Zealanders, we're just like road hogs.
But that's also because of, I got myself, these days heavily involved in bloody trying to get change done to road safety and stuff.
Yeah.
And we've got that situation because we're not prepared well enough. Our rules and regulations and things and what you've got to do to become get a license in New Zealand is just not actually good enough. It really just isn't. So people, it's just.
Well, I agree what you said. I heard you on the radio the other day when they changed the laws around getting a license. I mean, the most important thing is learning to drive, isn't it?
What's practical?
Yeah.
It's a practical task. It's a practical skill set. It's a learning. It is a serious.
Well, even a parent's
important
nightmare.
Yeah.
Is even now, my boys in their late 20s and 30s, it's still my.
So it was. That's something I was going to ask you. Was, you've got 4 boys, right? And so they've all learned to drive. They've all got licenses.
Yep.
I mean, I've had 3 kids go through it, and it is every time my daughter now goes to drive somewhere, I literally get anxious about it. I mean, your kids, when you see them starting to drive, did you teach them? Who taught them?
I didn't teach them. John took them down to the empty car park somewhere,
Yeah.
And they had lessons. Lessons.
Yeah.
Right. But, boys, I only got boys, so I can only took boys. They do think they're bulletproof.
Yeah.
And, it just, it worries me because they don't, in some ways, I always think, if they had a small accident or did the fear of God up, then it might be a blessing, but I don't want that either. But, if I see on stuff or something, car crash and I know my kids are around there, I mean, my heart's in my mouth.
Yeah. Until you know it's not. Yeah.
That's right. I just think it's, they're big machines, powerful things and now with phones and podcasts I didn't mean that, but always something to distract them.
Yeah,
it's scary. It's a worry. It's still the big cause of death in young people.
Oh, it is
unnecessary. So
and most of it is absolutely avoidable. And that's that's the thing that I don't think I'll ever understand. The loss and the harm and the grief that happens for so many people, the most terrible things that happen, and yet we are so reluctant to make appropriate changes to actually change that. And it seems too often that it's political, the reason why it doesn't get done, why it doesn't change, because governments are so scared that someone's not going to like them for making a decision. Well, newsflash, no one likes governments, no matter what you're doing.
Populist to see. It's, you're never going to do something that people are opposed to because it doesn't suit them.
I think saving lives would be a really popular thing to do, but it doesn't seem to be the case all the time. And it's not that hard. It really isn't that hard to make a change.
See this person on the bloody phone? Get off your bloody phone!
Just here too. And all these cars with all the, Bluetooth and Connect and everything, yet people are still using them. We can only do our bit.
You could become a politician.
Oh, jeez, now I'll be an angry politician.
You could be the Minister of
If I was the Minister of
NZTA.
Transport, if I was the Minister of Transport, there would be some changes, I tell you. There would be some changes. You need to have an expert in these positions, in these ministerial positions.
See, I even think 16's too young to drive.
It is, but that's not going to change now.
No.
I never thought they'd change it from 15, to be fair, but that was a good move. And no one even talks about that now, do they? No one cares. No one goes, oh, I wish it was 15, or has a go about it.
My son's 27 and still drives someone's restricted. He lives in London, though. Well, they don't drive. They don't drive at all.
Yeah.
I don't think they drive at all.
Well, he doesn't want to have a car.
No, I can't afford a car.
No.
So, don't know.
Yeah. Hey, well, that was successful. It wasn't too stressful, was it?
No.
I distracted you from the driving.
It was like taking my nana for a drive.
Oh,
Like
shit.
taking my nana for a drive.
I don't know how I should take that. Right, back into the safety of the studio. Susan, thanks for the drive. It wasn't that bad, was it?
No, I was on my best behaviour, though.
Do you like driving in Auckland?
No,
No.
not now. I mean, I lived here 25 years ago with 4 young children, and I just couldn't, 4 kids playing sport. It would take you all Saturday to drop them off, and then it would be Sunday morning by the time you got them all home again.
And now it's 20 years later. It's like, how many more people in this place?
Yeah, no.
It is phenomenal.
I know. You have to base your whole visit, don't you, on what time you should
on the motorway, making sure you have to avoid it.
Yeah. No, I don't like it at all.
Oh, well, you did well. You seemed confident. There was no sweating.
No. Well, I was, as I said, I was on my best behaviour.
I wanted to see bad behaviour.
I thought you'd be like one of those driving instructors that if I did something wrong, you'd
really,
put the foot down or do whatever.
Okay, so you did well not to be distracted by the conversation. You grew up in Rotorua, but you have a lot of family from Hawke's Bay though, as well.
I've got 7 brothers. 4 of them were born in Hastings. My parents were from there.
Yeah, right.
Or spent most of their life, early life there. And but I was born and bred in Rotorua. Most good people are.
Is that right? Well, I don't mind Rotorua. It's good mountain biking.
People used to say you can take the, what is it? You can take Rotorua.
No, the person out of
but you can't take the girl out of Rotorua. Yeah.
Is that right? That's true with you.
Pretty much. Yeah,
right.
Pretty much.
We did cover a little bit in the car, but so you got a first memory of actually driving in Rotorua? Is that where did you learn to drive?
Yeah, that's where I learned to do. I learned to drive in my parents' Mitsubishi Lancer.
There you go.
Yeah. It was a automatic.
Yeah.
And I started travelling overseas when I was about 17 years of age.
Wow.
So I got my licence very quickly, and then didn't use it because I was in Europe, in the UK especially. I never drove, so I remember coming back one day and my sister-in-law said, "Take the car and go and pick up the children," and I was like, and it was a manual Mini, and I didn't know how to drive.
Didn't know how to do it,
but I still went.
You were determined though, eh? It was like I'm not gonna let this bloody stop me.
But it was so unsafe. I bunny hopped myself around, but that's when I actually decided that I liked driving manuals. It's far more interesting than just driving an automatic car, just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, far more interesting for sure. So these were the good old days when we used to it was you walked in and you basically paid $10 or whatever, and old mate took you around the block or something. The old transport, the Ministry of Transport Police, and handed over a piece of paper. When you were like 15.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that much more difficult now, is it?
Oh, it's a little bit. It takes a little bit more time, but it's not like you have to work too much harder for it. That's for sure. Yeah. So you're the youngest of 7. 7? So you've got 6 brothers, or 7 brothers, 6 brothers, and everyone, the whole family was into squash.
Not everyone, but mostly.
Yeah. And where'd that come from parents wise? The
Brownlees, they're a well-known squash family in New Zealand. Bruce Brownlee's parents built the first squash court not in New Zealand, but, was one of the first centres. And my brothers were playing tennis one day and it rained, and they said, let's go down and play squash. And that was sort of, the whole family were hooked. I think all of my brothers bar one played a lot, and so we just became part of our DNA.
That was just where you went. It's just,
Yep. And so that's all my earliest childhood memories are of hanging around squash courts.
Wow. And when did you reckon you picked up a racket?
Oh, I was probably about 5, I suppose.
Is that right? Just because you were there
something to do while I was waiting for my parents and my brothers to finish in the bar. There was lots of hours spent in the bar. I think that was part of the attraction of the sport, was the social side of it, not just the actual. So I mean, and then my parents took my brothers to tournaments drove all around the country, and I just got hooked.
Yeah, wow.
I often wonder if I'd had a golf club or a tennis racket put in my hand, whether I would have had the same success.
Do you play golf?
No, it's too boring. Too slow.
Too slow. Well, then maybe it wouldn't have.
And everyone else in the family plays golf with all my sons and my husband, and they're all too good, so that would piss me off even more.
Yeah, right, if you couldn't do it. You would have been good at tennis, though. You would have been.
Well, I think I've got good hand-eye, so, and, athletic and whatever, so, but, that didn't happen, and I don't have any regrets, but I
Those were the days, though. That social side. I mean, that's what was all about when I started karting. We started. My dad and I ended up at the kart track, and I was 8 years old, and it wasn't because he or I thought that being a race car driver would be a great idea. It was just purely because it was an incredible amount of fun. And there was all these like-minded people that enjoyed each other's company. And that's what we loved about it so much, and it evolved into something else. But, and that there was that natural competition, wanting to win, but it wasn't in that nature of thinking you were going to go off and be some kind of international star doing it. And
I'm not sure if sport is the same these days for young families, but certainly in our family with our boys, they've played everything. At school they had a crack at everything. They're now good golfers and they've done different things, but, they also played a lot of squash because it was just something that John...
Yep.
I didn't play any squash after I retired when they were born, but John did. And, they still play and they're overseas. They've picked up a racket and joining the league. And, I think it's a really cool thing. I mean, my bridesmaid's daughter's married to Brennan Hartley. And that's how they met at karting.
There you go.
Because that's what they did in a family, and the Hartleys, obviously. Yeah. And that's how they met. And the rest is history.
The rest is history. So just walk me through how it evolved into becoming, such an incredible part of your life. What, when did you sort of realise, or someone realise that this needed to be taken another level with competition and then international, and then, how did that evolve from just having fun and playing the odd local league into, becoming professional?
I decided myself, really. I suppose I was about 12 and I was hooked. I was as hooked as much on training as I was on competing.
And, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And when I look back now, that's an awful long time ago, nearly 40 years.
Yeah.
But, I'd spend virtually my whole day. School was like an interruption, really, to training. Colin Brownlee coached me, and then Dardia, who was a very famous Egyptian, came to New Zealand and sort of was transformational in coaching of all of us young people. And I didn't necessarily go around telling everyone, but my goal was to be a world champion.
From when can you remember thinking that?
12 or 13.
Wow.
I left school when I was in the middle of my last year, when I was 16 or 17, I can't remember, but and told my parents that I was, going to save enough money so I could go to England and go on the circuit. And when I look back now and think, of having children myself, if a 17-year-old of mine came to me and said, I'm going to go to England, I would have probably laughed at them or said, don't be ridiculous. And so I really admire my parents for having that, belief. Yeah. Or allowing me to, or not putting... my dad was incredibly disappointed I didn't go to university, when you think about it, I was a female in a real minority sport going, across the other side of the world with sort of probably a fantasy, really, of thinking that I could be the best in the world. And, in the scheme of things, I was pretty good, but when on my first season, I was pretty useless, really. I got a few hammerings, or not a few, I got lots and lots and lots of hammerings. But yeah, as I said, it's such a long time ago that I just sort of don't even, don't remember it all. But I was just determined that that's what I was going to be.
Yeah, and you obviously had a self-belief. I want to go do this. You worked out a way to do it. Obviously your parents decided to support you with that venture and heading over there to do that. So then you arrived, and as you say, first year you got some hammerings. So did your desire and your dog with a bone kind of attitude just take over? Or, were there moments where you questioned or thought about walking away after getting hammered, or every time you got smashed, you used that as motivation? How did that all at that age?
Pretty demoralising the first year. I lost. Back then, if you went to a tournament, you basically went from tournament to tournament. You went from the French Open to the German Open to the Swiss Open and all like that. And I got beaten in the first round every tournament virtually, I think, that I played in. And if you get beaten, you don't get put up in accommodations. So it was like a series of going from place to place and couch surfing and existing. I also knew how much my parents had sacrificed to help me go there and squash New Zealand and what was called the Sports Foundation then.
Yeah.
So I did feel a sort of, responsibility to keep going. And I also was, there were lots of people who'd done it the first time and it was too hard and never went back. And I thought, my brother Paul in particular was pretty supportive. And so, I still enjoyed playing. I hated losing. And I think that's why, at the end of my first year, a guy called Bryce Taylor and his partner Marie, they had gone over to the UK to coach Bruce Brownlee, who had to retire early because he had hip problems. They said, look, if you want a base, you can come back and live with us. And that was sort of the turning point for me because I didn't have to live from, week to week and wonder where I was going to stay and how I was going to get around. And, I finally had a decent base and a good coach. And so, it was all sort of there. That just helped put it all together.
So if that offer hadn't turned up, what do you think might have happened?
Oh, I just think I probably would have perhaps given it another year. I mean, it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And, I had all the ingredients. I just didn't have a plan, and it's hard when you're away on your own and you're pretty young and a little bit naive. So you really need that structure around you to make it possible. But it's hard because you don't have any money.
Yeah.
And, but everyone's in the same boat. You play a sport like squash, you still don't have any money.
Yeah,
but, that's, So that was fine once I got a base and thing. And then, and then I just flew from there.
Really? So, I mean, that sort of gave you this grounding kind of and made you comfortable. Was it? That took that anxiety of not knowing away from, and so your focus changed onto purely.
Yeah, and I had a full-time coach, someone who else was, had a vested interest in my success. I met my husband very early on. Well, actually, I'd already won before he came around. But it's a lonely existence at times. But I just didn't think it was unusual to spend your whole day training. That's all I did.
Yeah, right.
It was like
you knew it was necessary kind of thing. It was just like...
Yeah. I mean, I probably overtrained in those days. We didn't have the benefit of sports science or sports psychology or any of that. It was all just a bit hit and miss back then. And I just thought that the harder to train, the better you'd be. There is some truth to that. It's not necessarily always the right way.
Yeah.
But... I mean, I never thought any day that I'd done enough and that I was good enough. And even when I started winning and was number one in the world, I never sort of woke up in the morning and thought, hey, I'm a world champion. Isn't the world a better place?
I can settle.
Yeah. No, it was just like always looking for the sort of perfect performance. Never happens, but there's always something to improve on every day.
Yeah. You say you just kept training and training. You say the science and ideas around studying, all sorts of different movements and all that kind of stuff there wasn't anyone offering all that stuff up then. So were you just playing, or were you doing, what else were you doing as part of trying to maintain or ideas around being able to make you better?
Well, technically, there were, good coaches. The technique of the game hasn't changed at all. The difference is, I think, the training methods have. Like back in our day, we used to run like we were marathon runners and, do interval trainings and go to the gym. We'd do all of it, We wouldn't just do bits of it we weren't specific as it is now. But, I think, I look at young squash players today training and I have to sort of, bite my lip. People ask me why I don't coach I'm not a technical coach either. That's a very specific skill to have, but, I can train people, but I'd probably make people cry. So my expectations of what you should do and what's involved in training are a little bit different than they are today,
Yeah.
But I was a bit of a maniac, I think, a bit sort of over the top and just about everything I did.
Yeah, right.
But but I loved it. I loved training. It was as much of a thrill for me training as it was competing.
But That is a key, though, isn't it? I mean, it's loving it. I mean, there'd be a lot of people that are very good at what they do and professional and you know, you have to train, all that kind of stuff, who probably wouldn't love that side of the preparation, I wouldn't think. Not everyone does, do they? I mean,
no, I think that's what makes people champions as opposed to, you know, just journeymen. You know, I used to always say being passionate about something is not just about loving something, it's about making the sacrifices, whatever sacrifices they are too. I mean, my kids are pretty good all-round sportsmen, but, you know, they and I used to I get frustrated because I'd see the talent and whatever, and I can say that now because they're adults, they're not, you know, and I'd say, well, you know, you're going to go training or whatever it was in, and they'd say, it was all right for you because you're a world champion. And I say, yeah, and I used to lie on the couch and it would happen, you know. So that's how you get there, boys.
Yeah.
But, you know, I learnt early on, and I want to say to parents now, when I see and they want Johnny or Jane, you know, are they going to be the best? And I say, well, if you have to tell your children to go training,
then forget it.
If you have to wake them up and get them out of bed, I mean, once is okay, but you have to do it all the time. If you have to organise them to get to their lessons, or they do whatever, and everyone thinks that, you know, if they get coaching and lessons, they're going to be miraculously much better. But do you ever see them training on their own? No. Do they walk themselves to the squash club? I used to run in the frosty Rotorua mornings to the squash club. You know, my parents would give me a ride. So, you know, if you have to make someone do it, it's not within them. You have to motivate yourself. It's not going to come from anyone else.
Do you, you would, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one then. You know, it, unfortunately too, the fashion of being a successful sports person and being the best and then the fame and then the money and all this kind of stuff. It seems to me that there's a lot of parents that want to live vicariously through their kids doing that stuff, you know, because they either dreamt of it or didn't quite, or see a kid with some talent and then think that it's almost seen as an easy pathway in some respects to be a sports star or something like that. Do you sort of see a bit of that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you do see a lot. I mean, the reality is to tell parents that there are very few people that make it to the top in sport. Yeah, and in particular in sport. But you're not lucky if you do, because, you know, you create your own luck by working incredibly hard. But I also think that, you know, if you've got a talent, then you owe it to yourself, not to your parents, to explore your potential to see how good you can be, you know, and that's, and I think you probably will agree that, you know, in a sporting sense, you learn a lot about yourself. I mean, I think when I was competing and people used to ask me to go and speak and draw the analogies between sport and business, I'd think, well, there's no bloody analogies between sport and business. Here I am, I'm getting paid to do something I love. Most people hate working. But as you get older, you realise that those attributes like being determined or being resilient or, you know, setting goals and planning and paying attention to detail and are transferable skills.
Yeah.
It's not until you're a little bit older
that you start to understand that.
Yeah, because most sports people, unless you play a sport like golf or things that you can play forever, like driving a motor car, you can do that when you're old, can't you?
Well, I don't know if you can. I don't know if you do it very well.
But you know what I mean? It's like those, you don't realise until you're put in the situation that the skills you had as a sports person are life skills that you use in different situations.
Yeah, totally.
And you learn that later in life. But I think it's so much harder for young people today because they've got all that social media attention.
Absolutely.
And I didn't have to worry about that. Whatever I did after winning an event, getting trolleyed and falling downstairs wasn't going to be on someone's phone the next day.
Yeah.
You know, and with that goes the criticism too. And the adulation's great, but there's a lot more of the other stuff, and you don't have to. So I never ever read anything about myself.
Yep.
Win, lose or draw from the time I was about 21.
Yep.
And that also stood me in good stead because, you know, I can't change people's views or opinions of me, so why would I read it?
But also that wasn't what you were trying to do anyway, was it?
No.
No.
I mean, yeah, I just think it's so much harder. The pressure today on, people is, I mean, look at Liam Lawson, for example.
Yep.
I've started following Formula One because of him.
Yep.
And
That's
why.
awesome.
I know. I mean, my husband lived down the road in Melbourne, so we used to go and.
Yep.
And until you've gone to a Formula One, you don't know that experience. But I think, imagine the pressure of that. I mean, he probably doesn't read it or whatever, but, the whole world.
I hope he doesn't. Yeah.
No, but, I mean, it's I'm saying we love our sports people, don't they, when they're doing great. When something goes wrong, we're just sort of in their boots and all.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I remember, through really my peaks of racing, and I reference this a lot, if someone wanted to, throw a rock at you by, saying something, whatever, well, they pretty much almost had to write it on a letter and post it and put it in and that was happening. Email was, there was a bit more email and stuff going around, but, the people couldn't hide behind a little screen and say things. And that was, there was just really, that I knew people didn't like me because, I was racing a Holden and they were Ford fans or whatever, and whatever they get some kind of image of who you are just because the fact you're beating their favourite driver or whatever, that's fine. But now the ability to have to deal, and I think the strength for a lot of these young athletes and things, the strength is actually not paying attention to that and ignoring those kinds of things and not having that distraction, because the distraction can just turn into a rabbit hole like so
I think the
quickly.
problem is that so many of them are trying to make a livelihood out of both.
Yep.
They want to be influencers and Instagram stars.
And
and
create
at the same
fame.
time, yes, that they perhaps think that's for a life after you've retired. And I think the other point you raised, which is really good, that people don't, if you have never been in that position of being, a successful sports person or a famous whatever, is that exact people's perception of what you like. Like I find
they choose. They just decide. Yeah.
Yeah. Or people say to me, "Oh, you're this," and I'll say, "Well,
why?
You don't actually know me, but because of what you've read or what you've seen, or
someone else's opinion."
Yeah, and you've made up your own mind already. You've judged me because of what you've seen, and I think that's a little bit unfair at times. I mean, it doesn't worry us. We're mature now.
Sure.
We do that. But when you're younger, I think it must be really difficult to have that sort of pressure on you.
Oh, I think it would be massively challenging to have to, as you say, deal with those multiple things now and have to work out what the focus is or whatever. I mean, I really like some of the things, like, for example, I don't know if being that you are following a little bit of Formula One now, the differences between so many of these drivers. Max Verstappen couldn't give a flying toss about what anyone says. Social media, he's pretty much non-existent. For a fact he's not reading anything that anyone's saying, but he's the most powerful driver in Formula One by a long stretch, maybe the most powerful driver in the world because of his success. So he doesn't have to, but he also has got that mentality. And, you need to have that strength, right? That mental strength in that space to be able to just push it to one side, or, in that case, he doesn't need to care about it. He doesn't need to make himself famous through social media because he's winning, world championships.
And he's so young, isn't he?
Yeah. He's 28. Yeah.
I was 28.
Yeah. He's because he's been in the game now quite a long time, but
But I think that's where mental strengths and attributes are so equally as important as any of your physical ones. And we didn't have the benefit of sports psychology.
No, to understand. Yeah.
In fact, if we used to laugh, you have to go and see a sports psychologist. You were really nuts.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they didn't actually know what they were doing either, because they were just starting out. But I think that's the other thing I've learned, is that there is, there's no shame, and you should use people's professional help if you need it. Seek it out if it's there. And there's the other thing, there's so many tools available for sports people these days that they should, be accessing it and whatever.
And some work for some people and don't work for others and stuff as well. Yeah. Because that's the interesting side of everyone's personalities and the likes, is how they do that. You're at the top of the game there for like 8 years, world number one. Is that right? 8 years.
Yeah.
Straight.
Yeah.
I
retired pretty young. I retired at 28.
Yeah. Which is crazy. But so was you were self-motivating all the way through? I mean, winning was obviously your drug. Is that a fair thing? That's what drove you day in, day out. You just had to win. I mean, that's a phenomenal period of time to be at the top.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I admit I had a real fear of failure.
Yeah, right.
A real fear of losing. Quite debilitating. That's what I imagine a sports psychologist would say, that, the fear of losing is debilitating. But for me, it was, that was my motivation.
Yeah.
I look back now and sort of cringe a little bit to think, I mean, if I lost occasionally in those 8 years, not very often. Thank God for that, because I probably would have killed so many more people.
Yeah.
But yeah, and in the end, that's why I retired early, because I thought, it got to the stage where I'd won everything that I'd set out to do, more than once, and I just didn't find any joy. If when you compete and win something, there's more of just a sense of relief than a sense of elation. And, thank God I've done that again. That's why I decided I'd had enough, really.
So, and was that had you been thinking about that for a while, or did it just all of a sudden?
No, I'd been thinking about it for a couple of years. I just
so
think people, particularly, I was married to John by then, and I think he looked at me rather strangely to think, God, here you are, the best in the world, and you're
calling it quits.
And you've been talking about retiring for a couple of years. I mean, it's like, why would you do that? And I just, I mean, I think when you stop enjoying it, or...
Had you got tired or not? Were you... that repetitive sort of nature?
I don't know. I just think, I'd done nothing else in my life.
Yeah.
Done nothing else. I couldn't actually think that, whilst I was 28, I had done nothing but play squash full time, it seemed. Like the time I was like 13 years of age.
Yeah.
It was the only thing I'd done in my life. It's the only thing I knew.
You'd missed everything else.
Yeah. And I didn't feel like I'd missed anything out then, but I just had enough. I just thought, I don't think I can do another year of... And I trained so hard because I thought that was my secret to success, was training harder than anyone else.
Yep.
Because when I went on that court and shut the door, I know I'd left no stone unturned.
You
So
didn't
barring illness or
there was
injury,
no question on what your preparedness.
Yeah. So barring illness or injury, I was going to win.
Yeah.
But with that came quite a lot of intense, not pressure so much, but it kept manifesting itself and becoming very nervous all the time. That sort of developed later. And
so the little anxiety kind of thing around.
And what was that about? Losing.
Yep.
That's all that could be about.
It's amazing.
What will people say if I lose?
Yeah.
What will happen if I lose? I'm expected to win. What if I don't? And that was, I thought, God, you can't live your life like that anymore.
That's a lot of stress to be sort of operating at it. So when you finally made the decision and you announced that to the world, was it just, did you have weight just fall off, or how did that, what was
I mean, it just felt, I didn't for 1 minute have a moment's regret.
Of regret, yeah.
Yeah. I just woke up on the morning of the World Championship final and said to John, I mean, it wasn't quite as sort of stunning a shock as that, but I just said to him, win, lose or draw today.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
And no one else knew that?
No. And I just think I just went out and absolutely blasted it. And I think because I knew that was going to be the end, and I'd had a stellar year, so I was going out on my terms and, having not lost at all that year and whatever. Wow. So, it just seemed right. I mean, not everybody gets to make that choice.
No, it gets made, in most cases,
either gets made for them or, we're very critical of people who hang around for too long. And I think, well, so what? They want to keep playing till they fall over and they're losing. Who cares? It's their choice.
Mm. Yeah, true. Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones that are doing it, not us, and I think, we look at the sport. Yeah, so I think only the athlete knows when the time is right.
Yeah.
If it's not forced upon you.
That's phenomenal. It really is. As you say, you're 28 years old and bloody...
If someone given me a crystal ball, though, and said, hey, Susan, in 5 years' time you're going to have 4 sons, well, I probably would have kept playing for at least another couple of years and just stopped at 2.
Yeah.
The grass isn't always greener. I'm only joking, but,
Yeah. Let's just talk about that. You've got 4 boys. I mean, they, as you said, they've all got a bit of a knack for certain sports and being successful in their chosen things. We were talking earlier before we came in here. One of them's a marathon runner. That's a incredibly mentally challenging and demanding chosen sport.
Yeah, our eldest is a really good middle distance runner. He's just had some terrible, not terrible, but it's hard for me having, he's missed out on the Olympics and the Com Games by a matter of seconds, doesn't really see how good he is, but I see how hard he trains, and that's phenomenal dedication.
Yeah.
My third son's just run his first ultra marathon in North Macedonia on the weekend, and that's pretty amazing. He ran
so what are they
105 kilometres.
Oh my!
And he did it in North Macedonia because it was cheap. It was only €75. The rest are, 600 or 700. But you know what's really cool? My son's playing county cricket in England, and they're all really good golfers. They're all really sporty, and the greatest pleasure we've had out of their sporting lives is going to watch them.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're all adults now and they're still playing and we can still go and watch them, doesn't matter whether they win, that we can still hang around on the sidelines is pretty cool for John and I, because, we don't, that's our thing. That's our buzz as a family.
Yeah.
He plays golf with a Pacey golf membership, so he's got someone to play with. But yeah, no, it's, we just love it. That's the thing that brings us all together, really, and the fact that they're still playing and enjoying it, which is what they do, is really cool.
Have they how often have they asked Mum for advice around?
Never.
Really?
Never. I thought about that the other day.
Actually, to be
I wonder if
fair,
I'm just too old, or
to be fair, I don't think mine have really asked mine for advice around car racing either.
Do you think your kids have ever asked you for advice on anything?
Actually,
I think we just give it to them.
Geez, maybe that's it. I think you could. I don't think they've ever asked, really, to be fair. But I do feel that we might have quite similar personalities in some way. So maybe I've put them off, but I'm not sure.
But I was thinking about that the day. Of all the things that I've done in sport, not one of my kids have ever said to me, "What would you have done?" or "How did you do that?" or and not that I'm worried about it.
No.
Because you only bring it up now. But I just think,
sorry for bringing that up.
In part, as you get older, the one thing you do have is some wisdom to share and whatever. But now I find I just give the advice, even if they don't want it, and give them something to ponder on. But it is funny, when the shit hits the proverbial whatever, I'm the one they ring.
Of course.
Because, I've got to relay the message to the father. So,
they'd rather do it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
No, because I am the softie, actually. And if it's money, but of course they come to me first, and I say to the boys, well, if we've got joint accounts, not the money doesn't happen anymore, but the bank of mum and dad only closed recently. I say, well, what? You might as well go straight to your father because we've got joint accounts. So then I have to say, well, why have you taken that out and given him to so-and-so?
Yeah, we're going to see it,
I said, go straight to the banker. I don't want to be the middleman here.
Oh, that is so funny. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities
going on. I know it's
on.
Your podcast, but do your children race cars?
They've both had a little bit of a go. The older one actually spent some time in America, strangely through the depths of COVID, which was a bit bizarre. And then he had a little bit of stint back in Australia, doing a little bit. But it's sort of, again, the big challenge around the old car racing game is the fact that you've got this very expensive piece of machinery that takes a lot of financial resource to keep it going. It's not just up to the individual. So that's sort of been the thing that's stymied sort of him a little bit. And then my younger son, he's had a couple of goes here in New Zealand in the Toyota series here as well. But the problem, a little bit of the problem for them is I wasn't, not that I was around. So, but they never got the go at a real the older one got a little bit of a go at karting. Karting's that whole preparation phase, right? And there's kids that have started when they were 6 and 7 and have were racing 3 weekends a month for 5-6 years and then get into cars and so Ronan, the older one, got a little bit of karting but not a lot, but he started quite late. And then my younger one, he never got any, so he goes straight into cars and he's up against it in a big way, just with the talent and the skills and the learnings that a lot of the competition does have from that space. So, and that was a little bit of me trying to keep them away from it in some respects, I suppose. And so you're on the back foot. And so unless you are some absolute, freak of a talent, Max Verstappen style, then it makes it incredibly difficult. You just can't catch up in the time frames that you get in the cars. So, and I didn't, I wanted them to do whatever they want. I didn't particularly, because of the challenge of the sport and how tough it is and the financial side of it, I didn't really want them to be going down that path, because I just, the chances are just so minuscule, because it's not just up to that individual. You give a prime example of wanting to achieve, and you loved training and you just wanted to give it that 110% all the time, and that was up to you, right? To do that. Get out of bed at 5 o'clock, whatever, go for a run, go to the squash, and hit squash balls and train and do all that kind of stuff. That's up to you. Whereas you knew there was people that weren't doing that, right? But they thought they were doing enough, but they weren't. And that's the case with so much sport, right? It's like, don't leave a stone unturned, take every opportunity and make sure you make the most of it. In motorsport, when you get given a chance, make sure you have not left anything on the table that you can ever regret for, because it costs so much money. You might not ever get another shot. And that's not because you're not a good racing car driver, but you've got to have the tools and you've got to be in an event. Someone's got to pay for it all for you to be able to prove that. And that's something that is really, really tough in our sport. You've somehow got to get to the racetrack to prove you're good enough.
Well, I look at that Drive to Survive series. Yeah. I mean, it's opulence, isn't it?
Oh, F1 is just, it's off scale, really. I mean, the money that's involved in that. And, you look at Monaco on the weekend, and it is all about the rich and famous. It's a show. It is glitz, glamour, and, people want to be seen. And those that are recognised will get seen, and that's too much about what it's about. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars involved in that whole thing, and then there's this whole dream of being, earning $30, $40, $50 million a year to drive a Formula One car and fly around in your private jet, and that's a little bit for too many people is the attraction to it, And
we've got some pretty good car drivers in the different classes and categories.
We do. We've
there's so many different, but even people like yourselves and whatever, I never think that New Zealanders fully appreciate, or that racing car drivers, Scott Dixon and the guy that was Shane Van
Gisbergen,
Scott McLaughlin and Greg Murphy, never get the recognition in New Zealand, as because there's that thing with racing that you're not sports people.
That's right. There has been. I think it.
Unless it's F1,
and I think that only, we've got more people than ever before, and it's all because that bloody Netflix really is the reason why there's more people following it than ever before, and that's before Liam came along. Yeah. That came, Netflix, and then we've had this young Kiwi kid on that trajectory, which has just given it more fuel to that fire, because it's like, whoa, we're actually going to have a Kiwi, and so everyone wants to know him and be a part of that. But you're right, the work and the effort that has to go in, the effort that Liam put in and people around him contributed to feed the beast, which is just this fire that burns money like you wouldn't believe, to create consistent opportunities for him to get in there. It's in such an immense amount of resource and time and effort to do that. And he's an athlete. He isn't. Those guys are just insane athletes. as far as fitness and endurance and all that kind of stuff. And then the mental side as well, is as much as any other sport that there is, because it's managing these incredibly challenging. If you watch Monaco again on the week and referencing it, and you watch the in-car and you watch how fast those things are going and the split moments of being, a few centimetres or a centimetre or 10 millimetres off a Armco barrier and making those decisions.
So why can't women do it? I know there's been one.
I seriously don't.
Why.
I seriously I can't answer that. I'm.
Why don't they set up a Grand Prix for women?
Well, they sort of have. There's actually categories. There's been
Is it
categories.
Too late for me? After that sterling performance around Ponsonby?
We'd have to put a bit of effort in, I think, just to hone the skills.
But that's the other thing. I always think, why do women not?
It's an enigma because it's not. In most of these cars, it's not a physical thing, right? You do have to be incredibly physically
strong,
and because when you're physically in shape and really good, then obviously your brain's functioning really well. So there's some women that have proven that they're capable, but the top level, like Formula One, I don't really get it. I've seen really good drivers. Simona Di Silvestro is one of the best I've ever seen, and she's raced an IndyCar and she's done and been very, very good. Probably not given the right chances and the right teams. And again, that's also part of it. An organisation with the best of the best of the best committing to taking the best female driver they've found and just turning her into what she needs to be. I don't know if there's been that level of commitment enough, maybe, but a lot of it I don't really understand. So it has to be something to do with just the way we process, and I don't know why that would be the case. But the information and the stuff that has to be processed at that rate. Is there a difference between a man and a woman doing that? I don't.
What are you
trying
to say there?
I'm not quite sure. And that's why I'm saying I don't know.
I'd probably stop now before you get yourself in any trouble.
Well, yeah, clearly women process a lot of very important information better than what I can.
I think you're trying to say that women can't process stuff as quickly as men. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Well, no, I'm just maybe in a race car at 300 kilometres an hour.
Right.
I don't know.
No, I think we'd be better, actually.
So, no, then I don't have an answer at all.
But that's what makes a champion, isn't it? Making that split-second decision. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Yeah. What shot are you going to pay at that moment? Yeah. Or where you kick the ball?
And having 100% confidence that is the thing to do. Absolutely to do. And
that's, I think, what makes sports champions very special. That making that split-second decision.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you back it 100%. So what did Squash teach you about life that you still carry today? I mean, it's just the way you've done everything, I suppose, in many respects.
There's lots and lots and lots of lessons, I suppose. But I think the most important one is that we've covered a little bit of it, is that, attention to detail. I've got no attention to detail in my life anymore. I'm just the most random person, and I think my husband laughs. I don't know where I wore it all out.
Used it up.
Or children changed that completely. I just, I'm a bit not necessarily a scatterbrain, but I just can't be bothered with admin. But I think resilience more than anything. I think that. I think it's very simplistic and it sounds a bit of a cliche, but I think whatever happens to you in life, you can always come back and make a go of things if you're prepared to work hard.
Yeah.
Dig deep, and work hard. Because none of us are going to go through this life unscathed without having some sort of emotional, physical, or whatever adversity hit you, and you're going to have to dig deep at times, and I think that's what sport, and particularly individual sports, I can't talk because I'm not a team sports person, but I think, when you're an individual, as you say, it's only you're entirely reliant on yourself to get out of situations that you put yourself into probably, but that's the resilience, I think, and I think it's a hard thing to teach or to educate or to, bring our children up with that sort of resilience. But that's the one thing that I would think. Because life, even for me, hasn't always been plain sailing, and I think that's what.
I mean, I know. Maybe you'll agree with this too. I mean, there was a long period of being, you've got to be quite selfish. I think, if you want to achieve, and you've got to focus on that kind of stuff. I mean, family, end up being the ones that sort of, in my case, you sort of end up them being second too much because of what you're focused on in this role to try and be the best at doing something. And I'm sure that happens with people that go to the office 5-6 days a week or whatever. But I know, I often, probably if that's a regret of anything, is that, you put too much of that stuff at the, racing and competitive and winning and all that kind of stuff, put a little bit too much first in many cases, certainly when I had a young family, I think it was, and that's probably, being a bit too selfish in that respect. But
yeah, slightly different sports and scenarios. And I think if you're a female, you've got to make that decision that you're going to, when you retire, if you want to have a family, if that's your goal, you have to, coming back for me wasn't an option because I'd done what I wanted to do. But there are lots of people who have to make that choice. Postpartum, are you going to come back and compete again? So it's quite difficult. But I think, as young people, your tenure of your career was a lot longer than mine, given the nature of your sport too. But I think as young sports people, we have to be a little bit selfish. And then I think you sort of recognise that you don't have to be precocious as well. I was a shocker growing up. I really was. It was my way or the highway, and nothing was going to come in my way of doing what I wanted to do, being the best and whatever. And, outrageously ambitious, probably at the expense of, I don't know, I didn't really know, but people probably thought I was just an arsehole, But I think that's, you get older and you have luckily you have some self-awareness and reflection of that, and that's not how that you're going to spend what you're going to do for the rest of your life and be like. Yeah. But you have to be pretty single-minded.
Yeah, and cutthroat, yeah. You took on this race relations commissioner role for a time. So why did that all of a sudden, or why did that become something that you saw as a role? What was the interest there?
Well, when I retired and, had a family, and I was heavily involved in different charitable organisations, I thought that was going to be my life, actually.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was going to be, I was going to be a stay-at-home mum with multiple interests, and I'd be able to, and my husband had a, good, successful sporting goods distribution business. Anyway, cut a long story short, that all changed a little bit, and I ended up having to go back to work. And that's when we moved to Tauranga, and I became the CEO of Sport Bay of Plenty. And I think I've been asked the questions a lot about, why did I take that job and whatever. Well, firstly, I think I spent my life doing a lot of governance and a lot of work, and I was sort of a lot of social justice / human rights stuff, which came, believe it or not, quite naturally to me. I'm a bit of an underdog, a fighter for the underdog.
Yep.
And I worked full time, and then I got to the stage where I wanted to stay at home and be around for the boys a little bit more. And I kept getting opportunities, and I kept saying no. And I remember Jamie was our youngest. He was 15, still at school. And when I got the approach to apply for this role, one thing my mother said to me was, Susan, your children are your life, but don't give up your life for your children. I thought also when I was approached to apply, I thought if I keep saying no to these opportunities,
they'll stop.
People will stop asking. And I was ready to go back to work full time. I never thought it would be so controversial, my appointment. I knew that not everyone would be universally, jumping for joy that, and that I might be an unusual choice. But everyone just, when you're a sports person, you get defined like that. If you went and did something completely different, people would say, Greg Murphy, what would he know about that?
Yeah.
He just drives a bloody, racing car. He'd have no idea. And that is exactly, little did I know that all the things I'd done in the, 15 years before that, well, they're not newsworthy, are they? Susan Devoy takes a course and such. She's done this, she's done that. Well, I don't need, but I sort of felt like I had to justify it, why I got appointment. And look, to be honest, it was a bit unusual. Wasn't I was a bit perplexed when they asked, but, I'm not so sort of pompous that I thought, oh, yes, I can do that. I looked at the job description. I said, oh, yeah, I've got a lot of those attributes. I haven't got all of them, but who does? And yeah, so, but man, it was a tough gig. I remember ringing. I've always had a really good mentor that I've asked for advice on all sorts of things. Can tell me the honest truth as well, even if I didn't want to hear it. And she said to me, "Oh, Susan, this job's not for the faint-hearted." And I said, "Oh, well, luckily then I'm not faint-hearted."
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. But man, it was tough. It was relentless sort of. But the other side of the coin is it was also a very cool job. It's just that the general public don't get to see the cool stuff that you do with, which is part of your role. They just think that the Race Relations Commissioner is the judge, juror and adjudicator of whether someone is racist or not. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We've got all of these divisive issues happening at the moment in New Zealand. And I ask people when I go out and speak and do this, could you tell me who the Race Relations Commissioner is now?
Nope.
Do you hear them saying anything?
Nope.
Are they publicly coming out, holding people to account? And that's at least what I did. As tough as it is sometimes, and that's what the role is. It's not about you being the decider of whether someone's racist. I don't know whether they are. What they said may be racist.
Yeah.
And, we talked about the populist politicians who, do the sort of, say the things because they know it's going to engender some sort of reaction. But that's the role, is to hold people to account. And at least I can put my hand on my heart and say that I did that. Yeah. I don't know. I think I was probably an enlightened choice, actually, because one, I was a female. They'd never had one. One, I was a white woman.
But it raised attention to the...
Well, it was I was an unusual choice, so people were, I think, at the beginning very interested to
what's going on here,
what she got to say about this, and
then it just generated open opinion, didn't it? And people then wanted to have a comment. Which,
so there's lots of things that we did in there that we're pretty proud of. The Charter for International Students, the petition for the Royal Inquiry into Historic State Abuse, our first racism campaign, lots and lots of good things. And, it enriched my life. I just sort of hope that I helped some of the people I advocated for, but God help me, I wouldn't want to be it now.
You got to be very proud. I mean, to take on something like that and have and be involved in those things and really important conversations,
Yeah, it is. It's an important conversation. That's right. I mean, we've all got a part to play in that. It's not just the role of the Race Relations Commissioner, but I think it's that took a personal toll. If you talk about trolls,
it's about not allowing that to attack you in a personal way, right? And that's that resilience. That's the strength on on not allowing those things to dictate or send you off on a pathway that you shouldn't go. I mean, that's really important. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. It's well done. Hey, just interesting. Well, one that would be really interesting to know about is obviously becoming a dame. What year was it?
Ooh, a long time ago. 1998.
98. So when you found, I just wanted to be interested to know what your reaction was when you found out that you'd been nominated, that it was happening, that you were going to get this award, this amazing award.
Well, I was a bit gobsmacked, really.
Yeah.
We lived in Auckland then, and I just had our fourth son, and I came home from the hospital, and John said to me, "There's some mail there you might be interested in reading." We did have mail back in those days.
Did he know about it? Did he know before that you were?
I think he'd opened the mail and then pretended to close the envelope again,
Look it up,
I'm sure he had. Anyway, so I opened it up and there was the letter there from the Prime Minister's office or the Governor-General's office or wherever it comes from, I don't know. And, I mean, I was...
Did you do a double take?
I was like, holy hell, Yeah, it was... I mean, it was just completely came out of the blue because it isn't something that you seek your life wanting to have, is it? Yeah. You don't say, I'm going to be a dame.
No, it's not. That's not your motivation. Yeah.
So, and my father had passed away, but my mother was still alive at the time. And so, it was a big thrill for her, of course. But the interesting thing for me was a year later, the Labour government came into power and they stopped for a time being the British system of honours and introduced a New Zealand system of honours. So there were going to be no more dames and sirs anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be on the verge of being extinct.
Yeah.
I'll be, and I know that because I went to a dame's afternoon tea once and I was the youngest there by miles and I was the only one there without my hat and pearls on. Everyone gets them nowadays. But the national government brought them back in. But it was only ever, I was never called Dame Susan, ever, until I became the Race Relations Commissioner.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Wumpka.
Yeah. And it's really weird. If you're a sir and you go to things, people always introduce that person as Sir so-and-so. And for me, people say to me, what shall we call you? And I say, call me what you bloody well like, really. But it's, my husband doesn't get a title. My friends call him Lady John, but he doesn't see the funny side.
He doesn't?
No. And then, it's still a bit sort of...
But weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, it's this, the Sir somehow seems more important.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, over the years, when I was on the A list of invites to somewhere, John would never get invited. I'd go along and then, Sir Edmund Hillary would be there with his wife or Sir Peter Blake with his wife and everyone. And I was thinking, this is a really... dare I say it, sexism is still a bit alive and well. It's a bit like why women can't drive Formula One racing cars.
Hey, who said that was a sexist thing?
No, I'm just joking.
I know. What does success look like for you now at this stage in your life? I think I know the answer. I think you told me.
Well, my husband's just retired. We're about to go overseas for 6 months. We're well-to-do. We're not overly wealthy. We've ummed and ahed over this. Yeah, we have. And we've ummed and ahed over it for a long period of time. Like, we don't know how long we're going to live. We don't know how much we're going to need.
Yeah.
Are we going to have enough?
Yeah.
We don't know what's around the corner.
What's going on in the bloody world?
Success for me is being financially able to retire and enjoy the next phase of our life, having 4 happy, healthy, independent young men with lovely partners on their way in their life.
Yeah.
Knowing that, I've enjoyed success in different areas and I've made a
You've contributed.
Yeah, and I still do. And that's what my next phase of life might be when we get over this retirement thing or whatever we're going to do. But yeah, and now it's, I'm desperate to be grandmother. I'm not supposed to mention that, so they won't be listening. But if someone is listening, they could perhaps drop the hints because they're not getting through. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they may not have children, I don't know, but I would think with 4, there's a chance I'm going to get at least one.
Yeah.
So I'd like, I think that'll be it. And then staying relatively healthy so I can enjoy the, the next stage of our life. Well, they say at 60 you've got 20 good summers, so... And I tell you what, the last 10 years have gone so quickly. It's scary. I think it's just been great to step off. I felt, life has always been so incredibly hectic and busy. And that's part of my personality too, is to be able to actually draw breath now and enjoy things. And
that's great.
And, don't take things for granted. And, and that's why I come on things like this, because I've never met you. And I thought, I've always
I appreciate
nice to meet someone that you've admired in person.
Likewise.
And you keep saying, if you keep saying yes to things, you never know, it makes life more interesting.
Bloody oath. A couple of quick fires for you about if you can handle being in the driver's seat. Can you handle it, Susan?
Of course.
All right. Have you been pulled over by a cop?
More than once.
You've got away with it, haven't you? In the past?
I have. I've been let off a couple of times, and I don't drop the dame card, but I did get picked up by a cop once when I was much younger, and I was in my squash gear. I was in Invercargill, and I was speeding, and he said, "And what's your name?" and "Name, please." And I said, "Susan Devoy." And he said, "Oh, yeah," laughed at me, "Yeah, and I'm Diego Maradona." He didn't believe that I was Susan Devoy. So I could have got off. He just thought,
And so he thought you were lying?
Yeah, thought I was lying and gave me a ticket.
Bloody hell.
I've never lost all my demerit points. I've never had my licence taken off me.
Neither have I, believe that or not.
Not sure whether I do.
No, you
that.
should believe it. It's true.
I reckon you just got off.
No, well, maybe got off a few.
No, well, you've got, I imagine you're very safety conscious.
Well, I am these days. I didn't used to be, but I have to these days because, road safety advocate and all. Imagine getting in trouble with the law. That would be good. Have you ever driven tired and thought, I'll be sweet when you absolutely weren't? So have you been fatigued and continued to drive? This is actually quite a significant issue these days. Right?
I have actually,
Yep.
and I didn't pull over. I did the usual wind the window down and get the
old
fresh
classic,
air and
yeah.
whatever. But I have to say my husband is amazing like that. If we drive in long distances, we've driven down to the South Island and whatever, he always stops within an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yeah, right.
So I know how
he's good, isn't he?
He is. He's a bit of a,
annoying.
What do you call it? Goody two-shoes.
Yeah. Or he's just sensible.
One of us has to be.
Or he's just sensible.
Yeah.
No. Okay. It's very common these days. Something that scares you the most when you're driving?
Well, I can't drive at night anymore. My eyesight's not great. And I find the lights coming
very glary.
It's particularly if it's raining.
Yeah.
But what scares me most is driving around town around people rushing out, children, animals.
Yep.
I mean, an animal, kill an animal, that's terrible. But I think lots of people tend to go quite fast around town. And
too fast, yeah.
There's so many things happening. That's what I think I'm trying to be aware of. That's what scares me the most.
Well, that's good that you're aware because unfortunately a lot of people don't think like that and aren't ready for those situations, right? They aren't ready to react. And then when something does, they actually don't really know what to do either, which is another problem. So what about your biggest driving distraction? Have you something that you're guilty of in respect to distraction?
I wouldn't dare admit that because I'm not guilty of anything. Perhaps
Really?
drinking a coffee while I'm driving. Trying to eat a Big Mac.
That's better. Okay.
Plucking the hairs out of my chin.
There's Dame Susan Devoy's biggest,
wouldn't be putting my lipstick on, would it?
Eating a Big Mac.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, look, I'm not entirely perfect. I try to stay off my phone, but sometimes. So I try and lock it in the console, or what I do is try to make it flat so you can't use it.
Very good. What's the most important thing someone ever taught you about driving? You got anything? Did I teach you anything today?
Nothing.
Oh.
I tell you what, the most important thing
judge.
someone taught me is that if you get into gravel, don't brake, ride it out.
Okay.
And that's what I think is really, really, but people got to be aware of that. If it says 50, it says it for a reason. If it says 30, it says it for a reason. That's what I've learned because I got into gravel once and, and I remember, I think it might even be my mother actually said that, if you get into gravel, don't brake suddenly.
That's part of.
But that's probably not true.
Well, it sort of is actually. Yeah, you've got to. Yeah. It's not quite that simple, but it's also part of the thing. And if you were given enough time to learn, what to do, then
I told a terrible porky about a car accident once. I was driving my husband's Ford Falcon down to Rotorua to see my parents, and I was going. I don't know where it was.
Is this the first time anyone's heard this?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, God, here we go. This is
anyway,
news.
I went around a corner too fast, and it was when your life flashes before your eyes thing. And I spun right out, and I ended up in the other direction in a ditch. And I was because I was okay physically, but the car wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was too embarrassed to tell John. So I told him that a possum or a cat or a cow had run over across the road. I can't remember what animal it was, but I bullshitted really.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to say that I took the corner too fast and spun out and it was my own fault.
No.
But the truth did come out later. But that was, that put the fear of goodness up me and was a really good lesson for driving. And that's why I think if you have an accident, it's terrible. But sometimes it gives you that.
It'd be great for everyone to have an experience like that, which didn't hurt themselves or anybody else.
Yeah. Well, it changed my complete driving.
Wow.
So I might drive
you would
fast
just
on the
not.
open road straight, but I wouldn't. I'm really slow around corners, and I travel up and down the Kaimais all the time, and I'm like, losing control around a corner scares the living daylights out of me.
Wow.
Mm.
There you go.
John wasn't
Little
worried
life
about
lesson.
me. He was just worried that his Ford Falcon got written off.
And hey, listen, they made plenty of them, and really at the end of the day, it's a Ford, so, Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure.
It's been bloody
brilliant.
Lovely to, first time we meet, we engage in this kind of conversation. It's been awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you
so much. And of course, a big thanks to our sponsor, AutoSense. Now, whether you're driving a lovely Jaguar or just a trusty little hatchback, they're helping Kiwi drivers stay safe and get home in one piece. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, which I hope you did, hit follow and then also share it with someone you think might like to listen and hear from a true Kiwi legend. Thanks a lot.